Hey, good afternoon, Anton.
Yes, and awesome afternoon to all the people watching on the live stream, and most especially on the replay. We have a special story today. This is one of the legendary ice creams here in Manila. It's called Sebastians, and we're talking to Ian Carandang, who created Sebastian ice cream, and his story is quite inspiring. And we're talking to him about what really happened, no? Ano ba yung story mo, Ian? And if you have questions, guys, you can join our discussion. Put it in the questions below, and we'll be talking about the colorful story of Sebastian's ice cream. My name is Antonius, founder of Our Awesome Planet. All right. Thank you. And we're here talking to and thank you for All right. Sorry, sa akin pala yung nag-ring na yun. So, let's start, Ian. I think maybe people know about Sebastian, but baka hindi nila kilala si Ian Carandang also. Maybe can you do a short introduction and how did this all start for you?
Well, if you go back to where I started with the ice cream, it really started. I mean, I've said it before. If you- I, it started with me wanting to get Ben and Jerry's. Simple as that. That this was the time a long, long, long time ago. I mean, now I don't want without dating myself.
Okay.
There was a time where the only ice cream that was available was Magnolia, Selecta, and the most creative ice creams you could get was I don't know crinkles in ice cream or super mocha. It wasn't really that much in terms of like the level of ice cream in terms of interesting flavors. At the same time, I got this book actually started with this Ben and Jerry's recipe book in National Bookstore.
Okay.
And so I never tried Ben and Jerry's, but I got the recipe book just so I could read about Ben and Jerry's and about the flavors. And I could see that there was like Chunky Monkey, New York Super Fudge Chunk, and what was the other one? Cookie Dough and Wavy Gravy. And these were all flavors where I want to try them. Like, why are they not available here? Because all we got was vanilla, chocolate, mocha, ube. That was it. That was the in terms of Filipino flavors. What we had at the time was probably ube and makapuno, and that was the extent of it. So it was just me about and I got to try it when one time we were going to duty free, where back then when duty free was more of a thing, you didn't know what would arrive, right? And one time we went there and their freezer was just full of Ben and Jerry's pints. So I was like, oh, that hallelujah moment. So I got every single flavor that I could see. So when I
Uh-huh.
just tried them, oh yeah, I got so that night I just trying them all. Like I remember it was like Britannia, Cool Britannia, and Cookie Dough, and yeah, like the ones I mentioned, like Butter Pecan, New York Fudge Chunk, and it was just mind. It was like altered my perception. It just like blew everything open about what ice cream could be. And when I went back to duty free, as I wanted more, they ran out and they didn't stock it again because, as if you remember, that it's just really about chambahan lang about what they can get.
Oo, yeah.
Right.
Paminsan-minsan lang yun. Oh.
Exactly. So at that point, I was like hooked, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna make it myself." So started, and I had my tita from the states bring me again. Again, it dates me because now you can go to any mall and you can buy any level of ice cream maker. It's so easy now. But
Yes.
back then, I had to ask my tita to send me one. And it was the old school one where it's battery powered, but you filled it with ice on the sides. So it was like that kind of, classic ice cream. And that's where the very first batch, the very first flavor I made was a version of Chunky Monkey. Because you'd think that banana ice cream would be more of a thing here, but it's not.
Uh,
Yeah. So I loved it. And looking back, like there was a lot of flaws in the recipe. It was probably as creamy as it wanted to be, but then I was hooked. So first I went through the recipe book of Ben and Jerry's. So of course you got your cookie dough and you got your butter pecan. That's still my personal favorite. And so what else did I make? My version of New York Super Fudge Chunk, where instead of I got dark chocolate, I focused on the dark chocolate and the fudge, and just like all these different flavors. I was just like playing and experimenting. And then So back then we had a small family restaurant in Quezon City called Hot Sticks, where we still.
Okay.
Some people might remember that. So at the time, I wanted to supplement the menu with some desserts. So
Okay.
I started making some flavors. The one of the first ones that we had was a lot of the ones I made at the start are still our OG flavors. So you Chocoholics Anonymous, cookie dough, butter pecan. Those were the foundation, and we still have them. Then it just was playing. I remember probably the very first original flavor I made was a Toblerone cheesecake.
Wow.
Simple cream
Okay.
cheese ice cream with chunks of Toblerone, and then I went with mango Sancerval. And once I went through the recipes of the book of what I wanted, then I started playing around with my own recipes. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so the story behind that, so it was going for a while. Then my classmates in UP business ad, they approached me on starting a business where the idea was that they would focus on the business side of it, the marketing, the financials, the logistics, and I could focus on making the ice cream. I'm like, great,
Okay.
like this is what I love. So yeah, so and for a while it was good. Like first we were supplying to restaurants. One of our partners, he had a connection with. You don't remember the restaurant, the Good Earth?
Yes, of
Yes,
course. Yeah.
and so we were supplying their ice cream, the Lychee Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
I made like an almond ice cream with lychee bits. I mean, like I revisited it, just like a few years ago, and I made an actual lychee dessert, lychee jelly dessert this time. But back then, yeah, that's what I made. It was still very simple. But then we hit a wall where, we would want when the deal was that when we would apply to restaurants and that, ideally, like, this is our brand, promote our brand, we'll make something for you. And I guess with the restaurants, we didn't get beyond the Good Earth. We kind of hit a wall. And I'm assuming is that from the restaurant's point of view is that who are you? Like, what
Uh-huh.
brand are you? Like, why should we promote your brand? And I understand that as a business person, that why would we promote your brand for free? And like, you have no name. So at that point, we decided to pivot and apply and sell straight to the customer. So at
Mm-hmm.
the time, we were at Good Earth and had a branch in Alabang Town Center. So they offered us a spot, the tiny 2x2 square, and by the cinemas. We took it. We had our first 10 flavors, and from there, like it was an immediate splash. That people really liked it. They got what we were doing. I remember that the scoops were 85 pesos a cone.
85.
Yeah, I know. And back then, that was expensive. That
Okay.
like
Yes.
you,
Oo nga.
it was in between where you had the really expensive stuff like Haagen Dazs was there, but even in Haagen Dazs, their flavors were not the most creative. They were still more mainstream and conservative. So and then you had on the other end, you had Magnolia Selecta more on the price wise on the lower end. So we decided to stake our claim right in the middle. So that's where it went, and it did really well. And we opened our first branch in Manila was Podium. Then
Mhm.
after that, we had one in Trinoma, and
Mhm.
even SM the Block at the same time, and then culminating with SM MOA Mall of Asia first
Oo.
opened. So it's like
So,
yeah,
yeah.
we were doing really well, and then frozen yogurt hit. Like that was the
Wait,
fad.
wait, wait. Pag-usapan natin yung frozen yogurt na yan. But before we go to frozen yogurt, no, let's go at the start. I wanted to know lang, what kept you moving at the time? I'm sure when it was starting, it was not in your mind, hey guys, we're starting the artisanal ice cream trend in Manila. Di ba? Parang hindi naman ganun eh. I mean, now, you would look back at it, you were one of the movers of that artisanal ice cream. But what was going on in your mind at the start and what kept you going? Kasi ano ka naman eh, parang home base ka lang noon, 'di ba? You're passionate foodie. Naalala ko pa yung mga ano mo, yung experiments mo yung mga at the time eh. But what kept you moving to pursue it from just a passionate hobby to recreate an ice cream to, hey, pwede pala to. Pwede pala tong going
It
business.
was real at the time. At the time for me, it really was about the passion, and I got because I had partners to focus on the business. I really did. You know, it's you follow the dream, the thing about, oh, you can get to do what you love and focus on that. And I enjoyed it. I was good at it. But I have to admit, like right before the yogurt boom, I did hit a creative wall. Where I thought to myself, where you know, there's nothing left. I've done everything that I can do, but creatively. But looking back, like that's how I laugh at that. It was because since then I've learned so much more.
Oo, parang it was unleashed afterwards, di ba? Pero at the start also, maybe some people, some home base also watching this live stream. How did you find your voice? Kasi I know a lot of the home-based entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs, di ba at the start, you're copying, you know, recipes, getting inspired by others. But at some point, you get your voice. Eh? How did you find your voice, especially with your ice cream?
Well, you know what it's really about. You boil it down to it's about creating, and you know whatever your genre. And you're right that any creative person, you know, you start by copying. You copy who you like. You get a little bit here, you get a little bit there of whatever artist interests you. Like for me, definitely Ben and Jerry's, and then later on Christina Tosi. So it's really about you just pick and choose, and you just keep adding. Then you just keep mix all of that together, and then along with your own experiences, your own point of view, it will come out. It's not that's the natural thing. Like you know, lalabas at lalabas naman yan. If you have the confidence for it, that I guess that's part of it. Where you end up, you get the confidence in yourself. You believe, you have the confidence that yeah, I can put this in. Na hindi ka na lang puro na lang copying. You know what I mean? That you have the perspective and you have the point of view. And for me, the point of view was that I just I get bored easy, so I always like to like get innovation, always like research, and I get little things from everywhere. That's what I was taught in fine arts. That was my background. Where really, so when it's about creativity, a lot of it is just collecting ideas and just letting them sit in your head, and then your subconscious will just like mix it up, and you never know when an idea will pop when just like two random things come together, and that's part of it. Like for me, that's my own personal experience, because as you can see that I'm always coming up with new things, and that's, you know, that I can't not do that. I would get bored. I enjoy doing that, and part of it's like it pushes me. So it's really finding your own voice. Like honestly, it's about like you just keep doing it. You copy what you love, you copy what you like, and then you just keep doing the work, and eventually your style will come out, regardless of your genre.
And when did you start bringing in the Filipino ingredients into it? Because you're very a big fan of, you know, all Filipino ingredients. But I'm sure at the start, it was not that way. When did you realize, you know, the Filipino ingredients is part of your voice?
Well, going back, like, you know, it's funny you mentioned that I was mentioning frozen yogurt. So with the frozen yogurt boom, it really was, yeah, it was hard for us. Like there was a time when, you know, that our backs were against the wall, and that's when I went back to the drawing board and trying and studying all these new techniques. And looking back, like if that crash didn't happen, I would have been complacent. Like it needed to happen for me to get to where I was, because I learned so many new techniques, because I was just trying to figure out something that would work and that would get people. And part of it was working with rice. I'm from UP, so I don't know if that not to say that people from other colleges aren't also nationalistic, but you know, for me, it's like, you know, I see doctors and lawyers, they get to contribute and give back to the community. Like I make food, what could I do? And this is how I do it. I wanted to, in my mind, in my field, just give back, because when I was a kid, what's the most popular Filipino ice cream? Ube. When I started making ice cream, it was still ube, honestly. So I wanted to make something where, but you know, with American ice cream, since then, you know, your chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, you've had cookies and cream, you've had butter pecan. There have been new flavors that have come up and risen up. And I wanted to make a new flavor or flavors that would celebrate Filipino taste, Filipino ingredients, and hopefully they would, you know, rank up there and be on the list. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. Whether it happened or not, that's not up to me anymore, right? But I wanted to try and do it. So for me, the thinking was that what is more Filipiniana than rice? Because we eat it with breakfast, lunch, dinner,
Oo
merienda.
nga, correct.
And like with desserts, like what are our Filipino desserts? Like aside from fresh fruit and Sanseval, like the we have like European desserts like Sanseval, but what is like truly Filipino? It's the kakanin, the sweets. So that's where I wanted to make kakanin based ice creams, and it took me overall around 2 years to develop it because when you freeze rice, put rice in the freezer, it becomes rock hard. I had
Oh.
to figure out how to make it where it's frozen. So how do I make it where it's nice and soft? So it wasn't literally 2 years of developing, but more like I try working on it, like didn't work, leave it, come back to it, try something else, leave it. So eventually I came up with the right formulation recipe where I could get rice soft and chewy even when it's frozen. And so I had multiple versions where I blended it into a base so it became nice and chewy, like sapin, or I would leave it whole in grains, like with Wizen Champurrado or Mangatsuman. And Biko. So I was able to do it then. And along with those flavors, I mean, Filipino flavors, you can boil it down to like the basic components would be probably rice and coconut, and then our local fruits. Like with that, we can go, and of course ube. We go there. It's a whole spectrum we can go to. So, I mean, in addition to that, I think it's just economically more sound because pecans are expensive. They're imported
Oh.
macadamia nuts. So if you work with local ingredients, you're doing yourself a favor because you lower the ingredient costs. So it's more of a margin for you. It's multiple purpose of doing that. So I would highly recommend it. And thankfully, with the food market now, like 20 years ago, probably not, people would still be more obsessed. Foreign is better. But now there is more of an appreciation and a genuine interest. And I'm so happy to see that where Filipinos like using local flavors as long as you do it good and interesting. They're willing to pay for it. And it's good to see now.
Oo, ang galing nga eh. I mean, especially the Filipino ingredients. I know you're the first ones. I'm not sure if you were the first talaga, but at least first ones. Sa iyo ko narinig nga yung mga Filipino ingredients eh. And being proud of it ah. Kasi some people just use it for like cost savings. But for you, it was really more about being proud, no? Nationalistic. And I remember during the time, walang ganong messaging, di ba? So that's why that's very good. Pero before we move on to your story, can you let us know what happened to the sarap pag-usapan yan eh. Ano pa nangyari do sa frozen yogurt and ice cream war? And sino bang nanalo doon? I know these are things na people don't talk about now, but that was a big thing, no? I mean, for those people who lived through that war, no? What happened?
Well, frozen yogurt it started with the States. It was a huge fad in the States. And of course, whatever's popular in the States, we eventually want to try it and copy it here too. And that's the thing. Like frozen yogurt, it became kind of like, became like the Pro Shakes, where all you need was some seed money, and then you would get the machine. Anyone, and the yogurt powder and just your toppings, and anyone could make it, right? And so it really became, it was there's, I don't want to call things fads, but I guess it was a trend. Because you can still find frozen yogurt. It's just not as popular. But yeah, for us, I can't speak for other businesses, but for us, it really hurt us. And right at the time when we invested our biggest store at the time in MOA. So
oh yes,
yeah, right then, because up until then, like the capital was really flowing, and it was like it was solid. At that point, we had no reason to think that it wasn't a sound investment. But yeah, so it was like right at that time when frozen yogurt came in, and it just really took a bite out of all of our businesses. And I'll freely admit it that it put our backs against the wall, and there was a time where we really thought about closing. That was a definite option. And thankfully, what happened was that my business partners, they had their own thing. This was a sideline to them. This was my main thing.
Okay.
So
okay,
my family ended up buying them out, and we took all the debts. And it was me. I had to take over everything, and I relied on delegating the stuff that they did before, with the marketing and the financials. Like thankfully my family helped out. I was still handling most of the food, but I had to be more aware and take a more active role in the other things. So to say who won, like I didn't beat frozen yogurt. It was more of just really the fad passed. Like either it passes or it doesn't. Because to use another example, milk tea. Milk tea was a thing about 10 years ago. They had a thing, and then it faded away. But somehow now it's come back, and I don't think you can even call it a fad anymore. It's
Yeah.
been there this long. There are that many branches, and it's still not fizzled. I can say that it's probably really a part of our food culture now. Like you can't
Mhm.
really call it now that's going to disappear. Like say bingsu. Sorry if you're into that, or any of the other, or liquid nitrogen ice cream, or rolled. Sorry, like I have. That's the thing. Like I've observed it. It's like frozen yogurt. That whole phase where I. That's why like even this now. The current pandemic, it doesn't phase. I mean, like of course it's a stressful thing,
Oo.
but it doesn't make me freak out because I've experienced it already before.
Yeah.
The level of crisis. So I
Let,
already know that. Oh,
yes.
that's
No, no. Let's talk about the pandemic though next. But I wanted to close the frozen yogurt first. Did you? Was there a point that you wanted to join the frozen yogurt and just redefine yourself as frozen desserts instead of just focusing on ice cream?
no, not at all. Because at that point, I would just be catching up. That the starting over again. Like there are other brands that were doing it and experts at it. So I would just be catching up to it. It's more of it would just be a white flag, and just in terms of optics, it would mean I was giving up on the product. And for
Uh,
me, I believe that ice cream is timeless. That's why I prefer that. I don't mind not. I don't want to be a fad, because when you're in fashion, that means eventually there's going to be a time you're going to be out of fashion. I want something that's going to be steady, and we're always going to be there. Like certain products are like that, like fried chicken, McDonald's, Jollibee. They're never going to be out of stock. They're in our bedrock. That's what I aim for. Like maybe we'll have our ups and downs, but we're always hopefully going to be there.
all right.
And I mean, I
Galing.
remember, yeah. Well, I remember the time when I knew that we were the turning point of it. I knew was that, and it relates back to the kakanin, where I was making these flavors, and they had not made an impact. We're just like middling because everyone's into frozen yogurt. I remember there was someone who ordered a half gallon of sapin sapin as a gift, and it turned out that gift was to the chef, Reggie Aspiras.
Ah, okay.
She ended up writing about it in the Inquirer, and just that one story, it just I remember though that I was told that Joey De Leon went to our shop in Podium and bought some, and it just kept going, and then other people would start writing about it and asking me to give interviews, and from there I recognized, okay, like with news stories, you're going to get a bump, but you can't rely on it. So from my point of view, I know when they come to check it out, I have to make sure that what they see, that they'll get hooked in whatever they'll see what we have to offer, and that hopefully we can get a retention of even just a little bit of the media attention. They can go there and just build on that. And honestly, that's where we were able to like build back, and everything that I studied and learned about kakanin, sorbets, and ice cream bars and cookie sandwiches and all of these things. Like I was able to throw it out there, and that's what sustained us, and I was able to build it back to where build it back from that low point.
All right. Galing, galing. So let's go to the pandemic. What happened really? How did it impact the ice cream business? And with the two lockdowns and until now, maybe can you tell us the story? Yeah.
I mean, well, how it affected the ice cream business, that if you had a shop, like you're selling your scoops and stuff, that was like a knife in the heart, because especially in the start, that anyone who has street food, where you don't have tables where you can just like get a scoop, then walk around and eat it, like, and which is what ice cream is. Like you can't, you're done, because you had a mask. There was no place to sit. You couldn't eat your food. So instantly, all of the shops who had that, like they had to, they had to, actually they couldn't sell at all. That was the thing. So that's why a lot of people ended up pivoting to deliveries, and with pints and whatever. And even then, like, for any ice cream manufacturer will know this, that delivery for ice cream is not is very difficult. It's like
Mhm.
it's not like biscuits or donuts or bread or fried chicken that you need ice cream like when it melts even a little bit, like you're done. It's like it's not even if you put it back in the freezer. So it's also hard to transport. So double shot na yan, eh. Like you can't eat in the malls, and then even when you deliver it, it takes special treatment. That's why, like, if you have limited range, if you have a shop, we're going to do the couriers. You have a limited range now. So and if you want for long distance, you kind of have to figure out your own way for it. So yeah. So and with me personally, what has happened that that we had shops in Katipunan, we had shops in Vertis, we had shops in Podium, and I had to we closed them all first at the lockdown. Then during the lockdown, our lease ran out in Vertis, so I just decided to close that then because people weren't going to the malls, and with
Yes. Oh.
Katipunan, unfortunately, like the market there was the schools. That was the main market, and they were up to now they're still closed. So like the main market of it is non-existent. So masakit nga dyan, we had just invested in renovating it.
Oo, di ba?
Yes, just like literally not even a year, not even 6 months. And then we had a deposit, and they were telling us that okay, you have to open again. It wasn't an option. Like I was that you have to open again, and you're gonna pay full rent. And I'm like, we can't. Like we just end up losing money. So that one was the most painful of all, where we had to close it and we lost our entire deposit. That stung, and so we focused on just Podium, and we opened our website for online store, which we were planning to do, and we were planning to do it anyway. But with the pandemic, I had to like fast forward it, and we started from there. And right now, that's where we are. That the Podium it's nowhere near what it sold like before the pandemic, because that was our strongest store.
Oo,
And
at saka maganda yung store na yun.
we're very proud of that store. So and I will say, like, shout out to Podium, like they've been very understanding, that they've taken into account that they know that the foot traffic is not good. So that's why we've been able to stay there, that they take it more of a percentage of sales and and other mall things, but it's not full rent, and that's how we were able to stay, and I want to stay there. But right now, the main source of our income is the online store, and part of that is that we deliver ourselves, because I did tests about we were going to do one of the couriers, so I did
Mhm.
stress where we made like several packs and sent them off in different locations, and for the most part, all of them arrived within the time we said, because I made this thing where I had styrofoam and filled it with ice
Mhm.
and covered the product with plastic, and it by our calculations it lasted 2 hours. So we were thinking, okay, we can possibly do this and use couriers. And what happened was that there was this one courier to Makati who ended up taking 3 hours to deliver. At first, I'm like, wow, I guess it was really traffic. Then we
Oo.
did it again, and then it turned out that everyone was fine under 2 hours. And then I realized that first guy, that for whatever reason he took his time. Like I don't know if he just took a break, stopped for lunch, delivered something else, and that's when I realized that you can't. Yeah, not when it's for me that I couldn't rely on couriers because of the inconsistency, because of that structure, that the economy, like there was no real way you could keep them, could trust them, that they would follow it. Like if they wanted to take a break, there was nothing you could do about it, like for whatever reason. So, and again, I took it very seriously about, but my concept of, if I wanted to say I could deliver, I'm like, we're going to deliver, like within Manila, and like it's going to be guaranteed frozen on delivery, and I couldn't do that with that setup, with handing out to someone else. And it would be that every time I made a delivery, I would just have anxiety, and I didn't want to live that way. So
Oo.
we moved it where we just transfer. Was we deliver, to clients anyway, and like I've delivered as far as Baguio, so we know we can do it, and so that's what we do. We just use our in-house vehicle and our cold storage, and so I can genuinely say, like that when you order for delivery, it will arrive to you guaranteed frozen. Like there's the delivery charges, like it's higher than normal, but it's for ice cream, and you can be sure that hindi siya lusaw, it's not half melted.
Uh,
It'll be good. Like I can
yeah.
promise that. And that's how we do it. And it's not the easiest thing, but it's the one that works for me.
Now I have a question. Because during this pandemic, I think I wanted to get your comment now. I think people still eat ice cream, but it was a battle between artisanal ice cream versus the ice cream you can buy in 7-Eleven. No? Kasi
Right.
it's always available. Once you crave for it during the quarantine, just go to 7-Eleven. So how did that war, factor into your business? And what do you think in terms of overall consumption of ice cream in the Philippines? Whether okay na basta ice cream lang, parang ganyan, and basic flavors, or are people more looking for luxurious type of ice cream for to indulge themselves because nasa bahay nga lang sila, di ba? I mean, you want it to be more colorful. What happened? Or and your point of view?
Well, my point of view in that is that everything about your questions, what you asked, like I would say yes to all of them. Yes, people like, they are willing to get the more artisanal stuff, and yes, some people are just fine with. I mean, like I love a good soft serve, and like even just like the simple cheap ice cream, they're fine with it because like there's nothing wrong with even even like the simple ice creams. They're good. You know what I mean? That masarap na sila eh. So the challenge is on us that how can we make it that people can be willing to pay 135 pesos for one ice cream bar when a Magnum is like half that. So but part of it, as you said, with 7-Eleven, it's not so much about price, it is about accessibility. It's about, because not everyone wants to get, to order delivery 200 pesos on top of whatever you get. So it's,
Mhm.
you can just go, as you said, you can just go to the 7-Eleven and get it. You can go to the supermarket, and that is actually what my next priority is. Where along with, okay, I have set up my delivery store, but I also at the same time I want to open in, I want to open more distribution partners, and then also I want the ultimate goal where you go into the supermarkets. With the supermarkets, and you have to get your FDA license. So I'm doing them, all of them, step by step. And that's the thing where I don't have an admin to do it for me. So I'm doing it like stage by stage. Like right now, I can say that I'm in the final stages of signing up with Frozen Manila.
Mhm.
From
Yes,
so
of course.
they're
Sila
the
Audrey.
ones, yeah, they're the ones who specialize in like delivering frozen things.
Yes.
So that's where hopefully that will extend our range, because we get so many requests from Parañaque, and I always have to say no,
Mhm.
I can't, won't reach there. So they reach to Parañaque, they reach to Cavite. So from there, it's like one more step of like delivering and getting our products to the people who want them. That's what I want. Like that's right now. It's not about trying to convince. I'm not trying to convince anyone who is happy with a 10 peso bar. That's a harder sell. It's more about trying to reach the ones who do want me. And then once I reach there, at the same time, I'm looking for distribution partners. That one of our most lucrative ones is the one in Tarlac, of all places. That they ordered from us, Wenshin Deli Mart. That they ordered a lot of our stuff, and I would, Tarlac would not be the first place where I would think, oh, this will be a good market for us. Not saying about Tarlac, but it's just not. I did, because they're so far away. I didn't think that they would want it, and surprisingly they do. So, and they get like our big ticket products too. So I'm looking for more distribution partners within stores like that, the ones who can deliver, and then ultimately after that, the FDA for supermarkets. And for me, like that's, and beyond that, like maybe like to go to the different provinces, like like your Cebu to deliver there. It's stage by stage. It's about, I've reached a point where I can make the most amazing products, the most amazing flavors, but if people can't reach them, then it doesn't
Yes.
mean. It's really more about distribution.
Galing ah. Okay. Now, what I wanted to ask you next is, we're celebrating the Pride Month this June, no? And you're as equally as you're spoken about your ice cream, you're open also about this thing. What should people know about the Pride Month, and What's happening in Manila around this space?
Well, usually there would be a huge month-long celebration with activities culminating in the Pride Metro Manila Pride March. Obviously, that's not happening this year. It didn't happen last year. I mean, like, well, for your first question of what is Pride, like, Pride is basically like it's a month-long celebration and just a recognition of the LGBT community and about awareness. And part of it is like celebratory. We get a month to ourselves just to like we celebrate. And then also, but it's also serious where it's about advocacy and awareness and about trying to get bills like the Soggy Bill passed and the anti-discrimination bill. So there's all of that. But for me, Pride is, with the Philippines in particular, there's still a lot of people in the closet, or like various levels, like that they'll be out to their friends but not to their family. They're out, they're out. So for me, Pride is for me is that it's a celebration to show the people who are not out yet that what can be, like for them to eventually come out. And it's been great in the sense that I've been attending Pride marches since I think 2010. And as early as then, like there would be attendance would be just maybe 2,000, 3,000, not much. But then the last one was what, 2019. We were, if estimates were to be believed, it was almost 100,000 people, and that is wild to me. That is
Wow.
And it's, you can see it in that when kids now, I'm happy for them. We're the young gay people, like it's safer for them. They're more open to come out. So, and it's just like it's a different time, and I'm so happy to see that. So that's what Pride is for us. Like it's just really more of a celebration, and yeah.
So, if you're not part of that community, how should you react to it? And like, we're very Catholic country. What's the reaction overall? I mean, is it okay lang naman? I mean, because everybody respect each other, or is there still stigma with it? What's really happening in this space, or how should I react? I mean, if you're not part of the community.
Well, there's a lot of questions. First off, I would say as an observer in the Philippines, and I have to admit, like I come from a privileged position where I'm what they would call passing. I pass that, because I'm like,
What do you mean?
because like I'm not readily femme. I don't read as like flamboyantly stereotypical gay. So that's called passing, where like I can get by and without getting the discrimination and the abuse that other more open people are. And that's not like saying like then that's not a good thing. Right? I mean, like no one should be getting that abuse at all. But yeah, seeing it from the Philippines, it's unique, especially compared to other countries where we have tolerance, but not necessarily acceptance. Because it's very common that you have your hairdressers, your palenqueras, or in that sense, like and for the most part they're accepted part of the community. But at the same time, the Soggy Bill was not passed because you have politicians like like people who have said that they're not going to let this pass, and we keep going and we keep trying. So then they're straight up about the refusal, their intention to not do anything about it. You know what I mean? So so it's in that sense where it's better off and it's worse off. I mean, again, like I don't even know about same-sex marriage on what level. I mean, even I'm more realistic about it. I think more about we're more likely to get divorced passed first than before we get same-sex marriage. So I'm not even like holding out hope for that. Maybe not for my generation, but yeah, like it's in between it. So it depends on but that's the thing. Like for me, I don't want tolerance. I want acceptance. We should fight for acceptance. Like tolerance, so that you can do your gay thing as long as you stay to your place and you don't shove it in our faces, and and don't be too gay. But that's the thing, though, is that as long as people still say that you're accepted if only you act a certain way to our standards, that's still not acceptance. that's still not full freedom. So, and we should, and it's baby steps. Like, if you compare it, it's discouraging to think about, but then again, like if you look back at what 10 years, what the status was, like we've made so much progress. So if you take it step by step, that it's easy to get discouraged, but if you take the long game, and I remember reading about it, I don't remember who said it, but activism is part of like fighting for something that you might not live to see.
Yes.
So it's important that we and the LGBT community, we keep going. We should keep striving for it. We should keep making ourselves known. So, and hopefully like we can get the rights. We don't want special rights. We want equal rights. So that's the thing. And as you said, like what can we do is that, assuming you're not a bigot, then just be supportive, be an ally. Because that's the thing. Like, ultimately, it comes down to convincing the politicians that it is in their best interests to get these laws passed. So, and the only way they can do that is for us to show that not only the community, but our support and our the supporting family and our allies are also willing to do it and fight for it with our votes. And that's the only way that the politicians will be convinced to do anything about it.
All right. Ang galing ah. I learned a lot in in a short explanation. Now, thank you, Ian. But do close our conversation. Maybe you can. I'll show your Instagram. What's your latest creations, and what can we expect for Sebastian for this year until the end of the year? Kasi, di ba, it's getting going to the bird season again. So these are your latest. Maybe you can talk to us about your latest products.
Well, as you can see at the top, we have for Pride Month, we have our rainbow ice cream cake. So because this year we launched our ice cream cake line. And then, as you can see, those 5 flavors, that the returning flavors of pine flavors, that they're seasonal, that a lot of people have been asking for them. So we brought them back, available in pint form. And then then you can see the Pride Pups, which is my, what I'm very proud of. That I sell it usually every year at just the Pride March, like for one day, and aimed for. It started with the Rainbow Pride Pop, and so then, and I made the Bear Pride Pop also, and that's only meant for usually just for Pride March that one day when we usually sell a lot of them. So and then this year because of there's no Pride March, so I decided to put them up online. And then the newest one is the Transgender Pride Pop.
This one.
Yes, that was the first one where, because Rainbow and Bear, that's where I personally identify with. But transgender, this is the first one where I'm not a part of the community, but I wanted to show my support in my own way, my own personal way. Where in the past couple of years, the transgender community, they have risen up in visibility, and at the same time, they've also gotten a lot of abuse and a lot of and just discrimination. So I just wanted to. I don't think I'm going to save the world with them, or I'm not under any illusion for that. But it's more of just something fun. And quite frankly, like, is there any other? How many products right now are catering in the Philippines, catering to the transgender community?
Wala ata eh. Meron ba?
I mean, like some people, they'll say, "Oh, you're pandering or whatever." But my point is, like, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell a huge amount of things from this. Whether or not, it's up to them. You know what I mean? That it's up to them whether they buy it or not. I'm not doing it to make a ton of money. Like this is like an activist thing for me, where it's about
nice.
Not a lot of people are still selling. It's changing. I've noticed it, like even with other ice cream brands, they're also doing rainbow themed things, which is great. And I would love to see that happen more and more. If nothing else, the stigma of making a gay themed product is like, it's not something that's going to get you protests now, or something that's not going to get you bigoted or boycotted. So that's for me, that's something already. So so with the Transgender Pride Pop, I just wanted to show some transgender pride love. Like you can see that it's made with Yakult, layers of blackberry, strawberry, original, and original Yakult like mixed together. So it tastes kind of like a yogurt ice pop in the colors of the Transgender Pride flag.
So the colors have taste, no? Kasi some people would look at it like even in your rainbow cake, may lasa yung color, or it's
Yes.
just coloring like
No,
this
no,
one.
no. Every single color is its own flavor. So like with the rainbow cake, starting from the bottom, it's ube cake,
Uh,
blueberry ice cream, avocado ice cream, lemon cake, orange sherbet, the strawberry sorbet, then topped with a sweet cream ice cream. So I
wow.
and all so you notice like it's like earthy, then goes up to like citrusy. So I think like so they all play together. So it's not. I think for me, it's like if you just use food coloring, it feels like it's a wasted opportunity. I mean, it's the same way I
Uh,
felt about sapin sapin, where I mean, with like even regular sapin that if they're just like food coloring, it's a wasted opportunity. Like you've got the chance to put in multiple flavors. Go for it.
wow, ang galing ah. So what's next for Sebastian's? For this
So
year, I mean for this year, going to the bird season, are you guys more optimistic about what's happening with vaccinations and stuff?
well, yeah, I mean, definitely. Like right now they just told us that we can move up to 30% seats, and more and more people are getting vaccinated. They're getting their second vaccination. My mom is going to get her vaccination today for second shot. I'm so
Yoo-hoo.
excited about that. My second one is still in August, but hopefully, like I went to the mall the other day, and I don't know, like I was walking there before. I would say that walking in the mall was sad. You could feel the sadness, but when I was walking there the other day, like I knew I had my first shot coursing through me, and that of course I'm not fully safe, but even knowing just the first shot, I felt a little better. I felt not as scared, and I feel like that, and I could see more people going there, and I think that that hope that eventually that people want to come back, and like the malls are one of the signs for it. Like Manila is healing when the malls come back, and you can feel it. Like when people get their second vaccination, they're not going to like stay home, right? They're going to want to go out again, and hopefully, as long as the government keeps it efficient, and vaccinating enough people, we're going to get back there slowly, and then get our booster shots when we're needed. It's going to take some time, but yeah, like I think like that we're past like the lowest point and heading back up again. And
All
I think
right.
it's gonna be
Galing,
exciting.
galing. Thank you, Ian. Maybe can you just finally invite them? Where can they get some Sebastians online?
We have our shop. It's in the podium, fifth floor. It's behind Mega Mall, ADB Avenue. So we have our shop there, and you can go grab scoops and burgers, chili burgers, and the Pride Pops and ice cream by the slice. But if you're not near podium, then you can order for delivery. Just go to our website, www.sebastiansicecream.com. You can order for delivery and for pickups. And also, if you go to our Facebook page, at Sebastian's Ice Cream in Facebook, there's a list of our reseller partners. So if the delivery is too far for you, you can see which reseller is the nearest to you, so you can get from them. And yeah, and I'd like to thank you, Anton, for this opportunity. Like this is fun. Like I think this is the first time I've been asked to do like an interview in this fashion. So yay.
I think your story is really colorful, and I think a lot of people need to know your story. And thank you for sharing things. I'm learning a lot. I do this naman. I want to really learn also from how people are resilient over the years. And parang what I got from you is you stick to your core, and that's actually a bit what I learned. No, you really have to stick to your core, diba? Parang just you know um and parang your voice, no, be true to your voice, what you want, and I like how you're using starting with Pinoy ingredients, and now including that pride story in your products. Ang galing lang. And then may aktivista pa, may parang actually yung aktivista mo is suabe, which is I like, no, I think that works really well in the Filipino culture. So I
I
think
think it's called more of an advocate rather than an activist.
yeah.
How about branding?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Maraming
much.
salamat. Okay. Bye-bye.